Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's HYCU webinar. I know we have a couple of folks who are just joining, so I'm going to give it a few seconds and we will start in exactly 1 minute with today's webinar. For those who are just joining, we will be joining in 1 minute. Giving a couple more seconds for everybody who is joining us. We've got a couple of folks still getting on. Alrighty, I think that is good for us to be able to start. Welcome to today's session. Today, we're going to focus on a live demo, and it's focused on Jira one-click restore for the oh shoot moments. I will make sure to keep that the word, just in case HR is watching, but I want to thank you all for your time and your attention today on today's session. Before we get into the details of the session, just a couple of housekeeping items. This will be available for you afterwards in a recording. We will not only send you the recording, but also the slides in case you would like to share with your colleagues. Now, with that being said, we are also giving away something pretty special. At the end of the session, we will announce one of the random winners of the Lego Star Wars Millennium Falcon building set. Whether you're a fan, your children are a fan, doesn't matter. If you stay towards the end of the session, we will give you one of these for the lucky winner of the session. After we are done with Q&A, we will get started and go from there. Now, as far as today's agenda and what you're going to get out of today's session, before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Andy Fernandez. I'm the Director of Product Management here at HYCU, and I'm joined by Mark. Mark, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Andy. Good morning, everybody. From a not so sunny day yet here in California. Like Andy said, my name is Mark Nijmeijer, Senior Director of Product Management here at HYCU. I lead the R-Cloud service, which really think of this as an extension of our mature data protection platform to be able to protect data and configuration that sits in SaaS, DBaaS, PaaS applications. So very happy, very excited to be here today to talk about the protection that we've built for the Atlassian suite of the families, and I'll be doing a demo in just a few minutes. Back to you, Andy.
Thank you so much, Mark. So what you're going to get out of today's session, obviously the focus is on today's demo, but we're going to talk three specific things. One, we're going to talk about the status of data protection for folks who are running Jira on Atlassian Cloud, or colloquially known as Jira Cloud. We're also going to talk about a couple of myths that we observe in Jira admins and Jira users when they're using the cloud, specifically to back up and restore. And ultimately, we're going to show you a live demo of one-click restore. If you have any questions throughout this chat, please add them to the Q&A. We will make sure to address them via the chat. And also, if you have any additional questions, you can ask us live towards the end of the session. So let's get started. So the reason that we're really here today is because of the dominance of Atlassian Cloud. We know that all roads lead to Atlassian Cloud, whether you are already using it yourself today, or you are a data center user and are exploring the value of the cloud. It's very easy to understand why so many folks are moving over to Atlassian Cloud, specifically when we talk through around their Jira and Confluence deployments. First and foremost, it's the same value prop that you get with infrastructure as a service and other major SaaS companies. You're able to save the time, the resource, manage the costs of managing your own data center. You get to offload all of that responsibility, all of those costs over to Atlassian Cloud. You also get an impressive, rich feature set. Along with that, you get the flexible pricing and even built-in availability. So if disaster does strike, Atlassian is going to take care of that for you. And ultimately, Atlassian Cloud also hosts the majority of Atlassian's investment from a feature perspective. So it's very easy to understand why all roads lead to Atlassian Cloud. But we're going to focus today's conversation specifically on Jira and what that means for you as an organization leveraging Jira in the cloud, specifically towards data protection, business continuity, and resilience. But now that we're on the topic of Atlassian Cloud, if we go back to a couple of years when everybody was on either server or a data center, it was very obvious what an organization had to do. IT was managing the backups, the infrastructure, and hosting everything for you. So if something did happen, IT had full responsibility of this as an organization. If somebody deleted something, if there was an outage, you go to IT and they help you. But if you look at where we are today within Atlassian Cloud, it's a very different model. You no longer have IT, you are utilizing and offloading all responsibilities to Atlassian Cloud. But if you go in and look at the legal statements, if you look at Atlassian's shared responsibility model, they make something extremely clear. They say it is our responsibility to deliver service availability, meaning that you as an organization can access Atlassian application, they host, and system level data as well. That includes DR and system level backups. But when it comes to you as a customer, your users, your data, your information, your integrations, that is what they call a shared responsibility. Now, what does that actually mean? What this really translates to is it's a shared responsibility, just like it is on AWS, just like it is on Microsoft 365. It means it is your responsibility. Atlassian will take ownership and make sure that your service is available. But when it comes to your data, if something happens to it, you are responsible for that as well. Now, why is this so important? Well, Jira is an extremely business critical application. That also applies to Confluence and Jira Service Management. This is the lifeblood of engineering organizations, of DevOps organizations, and even entire companies that leverage Jira in the cloud specifically. But it's important to know that understanding that even though you are leveraging Jira on the cloud, you are still responsible for your data that resides in it. But there are three critical reasons why we have to talk about this today. And when we think about that is data protection. There are three main things. The first one is operational data loss. We're going to get into that a little bit around the oh shoot moment and what that is. But think about it. It's accidental deletions, bugs, rogue administrators. There's things that happen every day where it is a user level mistake that leads to data loss. And then you have something a little bit more serious, maybe less frequent, but definitely more serious. And that is outages and cyber attacks. Whether there's hardware failures, power outages, or even specific supply chain level attacks, these are a reality and something that we must all assess as Jira Cloud users. And then ultimately, another critical reason to think about backup, to think about recovery is security and compliance. Now, obviously, Atlassian Cloud is an extremely secure service, but you have to think about security and compliance at the customer level. Am I, as a customer, compliant? Am I retaining my data? These are critical themes that we have to think about today. But before we focus on and show you exactly our capabilities, I want to address three very, very common myths that we get within our conversations with people who are using Jira and Confluence on Atlassian Cloud. And that is where we get to today's topic, though, the oh shoot moment. This is not an academic definition. This is my definition. But the way I look at an oh shoot moment is any scenario that leads to data loss and downtime within Jira. These are moments that can disrupt the business and set your organization back. A no-shoot moment can be anything from an admin deleting something very minor, maybe an issue, maybe an attachment, a comment, some type of configuration. But then you also get major issues. But all of this falls under that operational data loss element that we talk about. These are things that are going to happen in any organization. You'll have accidental deletions. Maybe sometimes not so accidental. We see malicious actors all the time. There could be permissions errors, third-party integrations, bugs, even malfunctioning scripts. All of these things happen daily. And we have seen that across all types of SaaS applications. This isn't just specific to Jira or Confluence. So ultimately, an oh shoot moment is something that is disruptive to your organization. Maybe it's disruptive to the day. Maybe it's disruptive to an entire development cycle. Maybe it's disruptive to an entire epic. That is what we talk about when it comes to no-shoot moment. And that leads us to myth number one. And myth number one is, I don't need to worry about backup. I'm using Jira in the cloud. Atlassian is going to restore it for me if something happens. Now, what I did was I did a lot of research. We had great conversations with our customers and our partners, and we found very, very clear, concrete definitions of whose responsibility is what, and what does Atlassian recommend. Now, if you actually look at the statements in the shared responsibility model that Atlassian provides, they specifically say, look, we keep the service available. We have DR in place. We have system level backups in place. But if something were to happen, whether it's on our side or you as a customer delete something, there's a corruption or a bug, doesn't matter what that scenario is, to avoid data loss, we recommend, and we as Atlassian in the statement, making regular backups. And if you're a visual learner like me, they even lay it out visually and say, your role as a Jira Cloud, as an Atlassian customer, is to create backups of your data. So what that means, if we go back to that, oh shoot moment, what does that actually mean? Well, if somebody accidentally deletes an entire instance, a Jira project, an attachment, an epic issue types, then Atlassian is not responsible for recovering that. In fact, they're explicitly telling you, hey, you need to create backups of your own data if you want to recover in case anything happens. So that's the first myth where we talk to folks and there's a light bulb moment at the end where they go, oh, I fully understand. And then there's fire drill because they fully are understanding the risk that they're taking by not creating any backups of their data. So that's myth number one is not really understanding the shared responsibility model and how that applies to creating backups of your own data and being responsible for it. But then we get into myth number two. This goes a little bit more into the security and compliance angle. Atlassian Cloud is compliant. Atlassian Cloud is extremely secure. But how does that relate to you as a customer? Well, if you go to that same shared responsibility model, they explicitly tell you what your role. You need, as a customer, you need to understand your risk profile and the sensitivity of your data. Atlassian can't estimate how what are each of their customers' individual compliance needs. They can only offer a compliant platform for them. But what about you as a customer? Are you a legal organization, a healthcare financial services organization? There are very specific compliance needs there. So what Atlassian does is not only recommends that you follow cybersecurity practices as well, but that you also take responsibility for your compliance. And what does that mean? Well, there are a couple of questions to ask, especially if you're thinking about yourself as a customer on Jira Cloud. A very important question is, how long do I need to store my data for? And the reason this is so important is when you had a data center deployment, your IT organization had full ability to follow your data retention needs. What this means is, for example, if you are a healthcare organization, you have a 7-year retention requirement. Well, what is your retention period right now in Atlassian Cloud? It's actually 30 days or 60 days. It depends on what you're using, but ultimately, for most organizations that have a data retention requirement, they are not fulfilling it within Atlassian Cloud. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, well, how long do I need to store my data for? And then the second one is, on data center, this was the basics, right? Every single IT person understands the 3-2-1 rule, right? Keeping 3 copies of your data, 2 media types, and 1 offsite. But are you following that rule within Atlassian Cloud? It's still recommended, highly recommended for resilience and business continuity that you keep storing your data offsite as well. This means having a copy available for recovery outside of Atlassian Cloud. And then ultimately as well, whether it's an outage or a ransomware attack, can you prove demonstrable recovery? This is a critical element, especially when we look at auditing and cyber insurance and what specific organizations are asked to do. So we've seen myth number one. Myth number one is being able to understand that you are responsible for your data, therefore you have to perform your own backups to recover if something happens. Myth number two is that people assume that they are automatically compliant the moment that they're using Atlassian Cloud. And myth number three is for those folks that already understand the shared responsibility model. And what this means is that Atlassian provides you an ability to export data. And myth number three is, I can use the export function within Jira Cloud and be okay. This is another common one that we assess and see within our customers and the conversations that we've had in the past. But when you think about, and actually I'm going to unveil that in a little bit, when you think about what this export actually means, what does this mean? Well, it means that you have to manually export your data somewhere else using an XML file. And what this means is that somebody has to spend hours or days manually exporting all of the critical data within your Jira Cloud deployment. Now, this means that you have to allocate an IT person, a developer, a program manager to be able to do this. If you've got some very technical staff, maybe there's some scripting that you can do using Atlassian APIs. But this still requires a lot of babysitting. And scripts do fail and they are not scalable for a large organization, especially for an application so critical like Jira running on Atlassian Cloud. Now, with that being said, this is why, first and foremost, we believe that the export as backup and recovery is a myth. It is a headache for organizations to be able to do so. But in a more serious context, let's ask yourselves a couple of questions here as a Jira Cloud user. One of the limitations of this export is that you are only able to complete a full export every 48 hours. So if something were to happen within those 48 hours, you would completely lose all of that data. Is this something that you can afford to lose as an organization? The second one, and this actually has been a common headache on data center, but also on Atlassian Cloud. It's if one of my developers has no shoot moment, whether it's an admin or developer, somebody accidentally deletes an instance, a comment, an attachment, something gets accidentally deleted. You cannot recover that unless you try to recover the entire project or instance, and that will be a very disruptive event for the organization. So that really means is that if something granular is deleted, you will not get that data back. Is that something you can tolerate as an organization? And third, do you have the resource and the bandwidth to allocate for your developers, your architects, even your IT folks to allocate hours or days a week simply managing or scripting backups? And another one here kind of falls in line with myth number two is, how am I managing to copy data over offsite? Is this even something that I can use in the event of an attack? Can I trust this bulk export of data as an easy way for me to recover in case there's an outage or an attack? What we've just reviewed are simply an insight into the conversations that we have with folks on Jira Cloud, and they come to this realization that not only are they responsible for data, not only do they have to back up their own data, but it can be very difficult to do it without the right backup and recovery service. So with that being said, I want to introduce, right before we get into the focus of today, which is the live demo, I want to tell you a little bit about how we at HYCU look to solve this problem with our backup and restore service for Jira. Now, today's conversation is focused on Jira in the cloud, but we're also able to do this for Confluence and for Jira Service Management. And we're working on several more Atlassian services as well. But with that being said, I want to tell you a little bit about us if you have never heard of HYCU before. We are data protection as a service, and we cover Jira Software, Confluence, and Jira Service Management. Now, we have a long pedigree and are a data protection leader in traditional infrastructure, in SaaS applications, in cloud infrastructure, things like Nutanix, VMware, AWS, Google Cloud 365. But we are also a data protection as a service for Jira, Confluence, and Jira Service Management. And in fact, Atlassian Ventures is one of our investors as well, along with Bain Capital, Acru, Cisco, and Okta. And there's a huge reason why Atlassian Ventures invested in us. And if you think about it, Atlassian Cloud is the future. It's an incredible service. It offers so much flexibility. And having a data protection service available for you only expands your ability to focus on Atlassian Cloud and make sure that you're secure, that you're resilient, and that your data is protected. But just a little bit more about HYCU. As I mentioned, we have a long pedigree of being a data protection leader at the enterprise level. We have over 3,600 customers in over 75 countries. And in fact, we are the only vendor recognized in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for enterprise backup that offers a data protection service for Atlassian Cloud, including Jira, Jira Service Management, and Confluence. But most importantly, for years, some of the most critical workloads in the world trust HYCU to be able to protect their data. Organizations like Broadcom, Honeywell, Pfizer, even federal organizations trust HYCU to be able to protect their data. That's why we saw the need to protect business critical applications like Jira, because they are so important. They are the lifeblood of organizations, and they're just as critical as everything else that we protect. Now, from a capabilities perspective, Mark is going to go in explicit detail in the demo and simply just show you how this works. But there are three things that HYCU can help you today. One, in the context of Jira Cloud, we can help you automate your backups. Within seconds, you can simply assign policies for all of your Jira instances and make sure that you are always protected. This is what we call a set and forget. And what this means is you simply assign a policy, and that will run in perpetuity until you decide to not do so. The most important component, though, that HYCU helps you with is one-click restore, being able to recover anything from an entire project down to granular data, attachments, subtypes, anything specifically granular. We are able to give you that type of restore. You cannot do that with an export. You cannot do that in other places. HYCU helps you have that one-click restore to avoid data loss. And ultimately, from a security and compliance perspective, you also have long-term data retention. What this means is that you can have full control of your data, store it in the public cloud for as long as you like. That way you can meet your retention and meet your compliance standards. But with that, I can talk all day about our service. But the most important piece is actually showing you exactly how easy it is and exactly how it works. And with that, I'm going to introduce Mark Nijmeijer, our Senior Director of Product Management, to show you exactly how easy this is. Mark?
Awesome, Andy. Thanks for the introduction again. So yeah, let's, can you unshare so I can share my screen?
Absolutely.
So we can actually show what we're doing over here. All right, let me share my screen. So in our demo environment over here, we basically have our Protege service, right? So as Andy said, data protection as a service lives on protege.hycu.com. We also have a full-blown Atlassian environment, right? So we have an Atlassian environment with Jira Service Management, Confluence Work Management, and so on. And our Protege service can protect all of those. So let's see how that works. Right. So over here, Andy touched on secure login, right? We're responsible for the endpoints and so on. So we've integrated with the major IAM multi-factor authentication services and so on. So in this particular instance, we can sign in with Okta, one-click login, completely secure end-to-end. And the first thing you'll see is basically, let me switch to the entire organization, is what we are very proud of is a service, a discovery service that we call rGraph. rGraph integrates with your Okta or with your Azure AD environment, and we basically scan the environment for services that we know about, that we recognize, and we can then very quickly classify those services, whether they are already protected or whether they need extra protection with HYCU. So all of that, of course, rolls up to in this case, the HYCU demo environment, but in your particular case, we could discover in your environment what you're running over there. Since we're focusing on Atlassian today, let's double click on the engineering side where we have classified the Atlassian deployment. So here you can see we're in good shape, right? In our demo environment, we have discovered multiple services that engineering is using, and all of those, our engineering, of course, is very keen on protecting their information. So they have configured backup for all of these sources already. In the SaaS window, you can see we have multiple Confluence sites, we have multiple Jira projects, we have some JSM projects. We also can protect your Okta environments in particular. Zooming in a little bit deeper, you can see that the R-Cloud engineering project is protected by the bronze policy. Like Andy said, it's super easy to start protecting new environments, right? In just a few clicks, I can assign a policy to this particular source, and that will automatically start the backups, run the schedules, do the backups every day. You can see, because it's bronze, we automatically take a daily backup. Of course, you can do your manual backup as well, right? So if you're making some big changes, you can quickly take a backup right before this. I think one of the most powerful features, and Andy touched on that, is around the granular restore capabilities of Protege. Right. So at the moment we take a backup, we natively integrate with the Atlassian APIs. So we go through all of the projects. We know exactly what you have stored in your projects. So we keep track of that, and we show what we can restore within that project, whether that is at the project level, whether that is a bug, task, epic, or all the way down to attachments. we can do that. So for instance, if I go into the same R-Cloud engineering project in Jira and go to all of my issues, go to all issues, and for instance, I do a big oopsie moment, right? We're all about the oh shoot moment. For instance, somebody deletes this attachment over here, right? So oops, I shouldn't have done that. Let's log into Protege and delete that. Right. So remember, RCE 17 is the ticket number. We'll go in here. We use the most recent backup from from yesterday, actually. I have to remember where this was. It's on the 9. So RCE 17, there is the attachment I just accidentally deleted. And basically in just a few clicks, we start the restore operation. We basically are opening up the backup, finding that attachments, and then dropping that right back into the R-Cloud engineering project over there. While that's working, let's explore a little bit more. I talked about policies. Policies are what defines your what we call RPO. How often do I take a backup? How long do I keep my data? And where do I store my data, right? So in this case, the backups are being placed in a Google Cloud instance. If we look at storage in particular, here you see all of those storage targets that we have. We, of course, integrate with Amazon S3 as well, right? So if you want to keep your backups in S3, you're more than willing to do that. Just give us your API access keys and so on, and we can store your backups over there. But basically there, you can enable worm, you can enable encryption. So all of those backups, they're really, really secure. Nobody can touch those until the worm timer logs off. Let me see how far we are. Yep, the restore has completed, right? So in about a minute and a half, we basically restore the attachment I just deleted. So if I go back over here now and I basically hit a refresh, now you'll see that the attachment has been restored. So everybody can continue working. This works exactly the same if I want to restore, for instance, I want to restore a particular ticket or the entire project, right? If the admin made an oopsie and deleted a project he shouldn't have, we can restore that very easily as well. And you'll see at the moment you start clicking into Confluence and you do a Confluence backup or a restore, you'll see the Confluence types, right? So then we're talking about spaces and pages and attachments and so on. At the moment we're talking about JSM. You'll see JSM specific object types over here. Now we're talking about reviews and tasks and problems and incidents and so on. So really depending on the application that you're backing up, the restore is very application specific, very application dependent. But yeah, basically all in all, I showed you policies, right? Really set and forget, really easy to set up protection for all of your sources that you're using in your environment. Policies point to targets. So that's where we're storing the backup, and that's always within your account. HYCU does not own your backup. And then basically in the discovery, just by using a quick service account, and I can show you that as well, sources, basically for Jira, for instance, basically you just give us username and an API token, right? That's all we need to know for a service account. That's all we need to do the discovery, to do the backups, and then to be able to restore. Awesome. I think that's about the end of my demo over here. We're at the bottom of the hour. We probably have some questions on the chat. Andy, you want to see if there's any interesting ones over there that we should answer?
Absolutely, Mark. What I'm going to do is you can let me share my screen. I'm going to do a quick wrap up for everybody.
Yep.
After that, we'll do Q&A, and then we will also answer the winner. So let me just share my screen real quick. Mark, can you confirm when you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, perfect. So one thing to mention, folks, and that was Thank you so much, Mark, for that demo. It's one of my favorite demos because it shows you how easy it is to be able to use and restore your own data within Jira. You have full access control there, and it makes it very easy for any organization, small or large. But what I want to wrap up the conversation today is really around business outcomes. What does HYCU do for you if you are running Jira, Confluence, or Service Atlassian Cloud? The first thing, it ensures control and protection. What I mean by that is Atlassian Cloud is incredible. It is a no-brainer for organizations to go up there. But what HYCU does, it gives you the same type of control, the same data protection that you had within data center, but with the power of the cloud. So you can get all those new features, all that flexibility, and offload all of that management to Atlassian. HYCU allows you to do that in a safe way. Second one is data resilience, right? There is cyber resilience, there is being able to have service availability, but what about your data? You're responsible for it, and you have to make sure that you can protect yourself against data loss from an outage, cyber attacks, or those pesky oh shoot moments that we've already talked about. The third one is HYCU helps you prevent disruptions. This means that regardless of the type of deletion, even losing an epic, losing an entire project is disastrous, but even attachments, these things are very important, and you have no idea the ramifications they can have on your development cycle. If you, as Mark showed, can just restore something within a minute, this significantly improves productivity and avoids all of these issues and disruptions that come with deletions or data loss. Another one as well, and this is a critical one, is it makes sure that you're also compliant, that you can easily go to Atlassian Cloud, that you can meet your data retention requirements, your data protection requirements, and from a governance perspective as well, that you always have an offsite copy and that you're meeting your retention, especially if you are financial, healthcare, or any type of legal or an academic organization. And ultimately, it's about saving resources. On data center, you had a backup admin, but when you are running Atlassian Cloud, you don't have that. Do you want to really give the one of your developers the responsibility of having to allocate hours, if not an entire day, to manually managing backups, or even ask your team to script backups? No, absolutely not. What HYCU does, it allows you to offload all of these manual tasks. Within minutes, you can automate all of your backups, and you can actually focus on what matters, which is building and the very purpose of why you are using Jira, to be able to innovate and to be able to ship new features. And those are the 5 things that HYCU helps you do. Now, with that, I'm going to announce the winner shortly. But if you simply want more information, you want to have a conversation with us, if you want access to this service, we do have a free trial available for you. Simply scan here or go to HYCU.com and ask for a demo. Our product experts and even Mark and myself will jump on that conversation with you and show you exactly how this could impact you and give you a full demo and access to our SaaS service. With that, before we get into Q&A, I am going to announce the winner. And the winner is Saeed Mirzada. I won't say any more details, Saeed, because of data privacy reasons, but Saeed, you are today's winner of the Millennium Falcon Lego set. Our team will be in touch with you, and we will be able to ship everything to you as soon as possible. Congratulations on the victory today, Saeed. With that, Mark, let us get into some of the questions.
Sure.
So, Mark, one of the questions that we had was, does HYCU work with Duo as an IDP?
Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely comes up in conversations we have with our customers. Like you saw today, we use Okta, Google, and Azure as the identity providers. We do have plans to integrate with Duo as well. Hopefully later this year, might slip into early next year. But yeah, definitely on the short-term roadmap, I would say to be able to use Duo.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. One of the other questions that we get from James is, could you speak to any limitations on the kinds of data that can be backed up?
Yeah, good question, James. So it's hard to really go into detail, and maybe we should set up a follow-up conversation to see exactly what you're after. We are in our backup and restore capabilities. We're really focused on the data aspects of Jira, JSM, and Confluence, right? So for Jira, we back up, of course, all the projects and tickets and attachments and comments and so on. In Confluence, it's spaces and pages and blogs and attachments. On the JSM, like I showed, it's all about projects and incidents and things like that. What we are planning to do is also start backing up the configuration of your projects and spaces, right? So let's see if we can back up things like plugins, Jira applications, things like that, as well as configurations like authentication schemes and things like that. So today it's mostly focused on data. Tomorrow it will be more configuration as well.
Thank you, Mark. One of the other questions, and this is the one you and I always get at events or calls. How do you guys do this? Is there an agent-based? Is there a plugin and integration there, or is this a native service?
Yeah, good question. So think of it this way. So the R-Cloud architecture is designed with a modular approach. So for each application that we protect, we or the ISV, the SaaS vendor, develops the module that integrates natively with their APIs, right? So we go in, I call that, we go in through the front door of the application, right? That's why you saw we need to provide an API token into a service account so we can leverage the Jira APIs, the Confluence APIs to basically extract the data, store it as a backup, and then also to push that information back into the Jira developments. So that allows us to be very, very granular, right? It's not like we basically leverage their XML dump. No, we don't. We have natively integrated with the Atlassian APIs.
Thank you, Mark. One other question, it's a usual suspect as well, is HYCU storing the backup data?
So actually, no. Like I showed in the demo, we always connect to the storage that you own, that you manage, that you run in your account, right? So yes, we will move the data from the application to your storage, but we do not keep any copies. We don't store even temporary copies within our domain. We're just a data mover. So storage is always in your control. You own the lifecycle management. You own, in the end, it's your responsibility.
Perfect. Mark, one of the other questions that we got too is in the case of a ransomware attack, what can HYCU really do to help you recover? That's better than else or different.
Yeah, so as we developed and as we of course started having conversations with customers, with analysts and so on, it's probably very fair to say that SaaS is one of those almost easy targets, right? At the moment, people are within your organization. There is a lot of data in SaaS, right? The average company in the US is using over 200 SaaS applications today, right? And some of those are really hidden. They're like managed out in your organization. IT doesn't know about it. So in a way that's really, really scary. But it's also because most SaaS applications, you just need a username and password to get in. It's also very easy for the malicious people to get in, for the hackers to get in and start either encrypting or deleting data, really taking your data hostage and so on. So that was one of the major drivers for us to start developing this, really extending our platform to now be able to protect those SaaS, DBaaS, and PaaS applications as well, because they're out there, and like what Andy was explaining. In the end, it's your responsibility to take backups over there. Yes, they are the SaaS vendor themselves. They do a good job of bringing the service back up. But at the moment you go in and you delete something, or somebody deletes something, one of those shoot moments, then it's your responsibility to bring that data back. So that's why really we think of this as an insurance, right? If something bad happens, you can very quickly recover from that. In most cases, with just a few clicks.
Thank you so much, Mark. There's several more questions. I promise you that within the hour, we will respond to all these questions via email. But one more question, Mark. How is this licensed? Is it per workload, capacity, users? What does this look like for Jira and Confluence?
Yeah, so we're actually following Atlassian's licensing model. So we're license, you can purchase subscriptions per user, right? So for every user that you basically purchase from Atlassian for Jira, Confluence, JSM, you purchase a subscription from us as well to protect the data.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. Everyone else, we will get to your questions. We have run out of time today, but we will, within an hour, you will receive an email. Saeed, I want to thank you as well. Everybody who attended today's webinar, I want to thank you for your time, for your attention. You will receive an email with the recording and the slides available to you. But with that, I hope everyone here has a great day. And Mark, thanks for the demo as always.
Always. Congrats,
Bye,
Saeed.
everyone.